Good morning. Welcome to Cheers Club Show. Today we have Tom Watkins, one of my best friends.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Jerry. Thanks for being here.
You has cold. But tell
My heart is warm.
There we go.
Yeah.
But tell a little bit about yourself to our audience.
Well, I have a pretty rich and diverse background, but as far as China goes, I had a great fourth grade teacher that opened my eyes to China when I was a little boy, and just fascinated.
How little was it?
Well, I was 10 years old. Yeah, I was a little guy, you know, but just really fascinated with the culture. And at that time, there was no opening. I mean, in fact, China was like North Korea is today. We had no relationship with China. And just fast forward a number of years, my first trip to China was in 1989. Happened to coincide with the Tiananmen.
1989.
1989.
I was a college kid.
You were a college kid.
I was on the street.
I was nearly 30, so I was a little bit older than you. You know, that really captured my attention. And then 6 months later, I was back in China with my colleague and friend, Dr. Watkins, who worked at the University of Michigan. And there, it's really become a love affair with finding ways to build cultural, educational, and economic bridges with China. So I perhaps have written quite extensively about that, many articles.
I can't keep up with all the articles you've been put out there.
Yeah, well, it's very important to me that we find ways to develop people-to-people exchanges and interactions with the people of China. Very few people. I mean, in fact, National Geographic, about a decade ago, said that the people of America and Western cultures are ignorant about all things Asia, and specifically China. So I've kind of taken on as a mission to find ways to educate people on both sides of the ocean about this most important bilateral relationship.
Well, you know, obviously, you talk about the history a little bit in the last 30 years. You know, I want to go back to 10,000 years. The 10,000 years, if you look at
I wasn't there, Jerry. Just in case you were wondering.
I'm wondering I was there or not. But if you look at the human being out of Africa, one group, they went to, you know, to meet near Antelope.
Yeah.
And one group came here.
Yeah.
And the two group, and the other group, also one group stay there in Africa. You know, some group go to Asia Pacific, or someone to the Latin America. But the two major groups never really have a chance to, like, work close like we're doing today. But there's a Silk Road that kind of connected all through these years. So the point is, somehow we're separated, somehow we're integrated, somehow we're getting closer and closer. That's a trend.
Well, it is a trend, and it's very important. I mean, one of the things that I'm very proud of, working with Elbriggs Patterson, the Oakland County Executive, to bring Chinese to all schools in Oakland County. Language is very important. Understanding the context, the culture of language is important. So making sure that our young people are beginning to understand that, perhaps a lot more than people my age. And there's a lot of schools across Michigan, community colleges and universities that are really spending a lot of time educating children, not only about the language, but the history and culture. I mean, you know, let's, you know, be very blunt about it. China is 1/5 of all humanity. It's the most spoken language on the planet, fastest growing world economy. So to try to ignore it, you do so at your own peril.
You know, it seems that we're drinking tea. You're too serious. I want to talk about something funny.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to enjoy.
You know, I still remember the time when you and I were traveling to China, to Hainan.
Yeah.
That's a real you. You were talking about a foot massage. You were talking about a wine. This is
it's very serious. Well, there is such to enjoy, you know, in China because the history, the culture.
Those parts.
Well, you know, I mean, to do it, you could see I could become addicted to foot massage in China. It's a very relaxing after a long day of travel, walking up and down steps on the cobblestone streets and the like, to go and to relax with your friends. You can almost find a chorus of laughter and pain as people are in a large group of people and folks are having a foot massage. Some are laughing and some are, ooh, ow. So it really can be in a very
So if I say one thing that one reason that makes you really love China is the foot massage.
Well, foot massage would be
maybe
in the top 10.
Top 10, okay. What's the other top 9?
Well, it really is just to see. I mean, one of the great things that I've enjoyed about being in China is it took me out of my comfort zone. I mean, growing up as a white male in a white male-dominated society, all of a sudden I found myself in China in 1989. I looked around.
People looked at you like an alien?
Yeah, alien, exactly. Well, big nose foreign devil, as I think is what the reference was back then. But really took it out. And in fact, I remember once I was on the Bund in an office in Shanghai, and I walked by this office and I literally had to rub my eyes because I looked at a map of the world. And this map of the world was totally off kilter for me because growing up, the United States was in the middle, and then there was Europe and Russia, and then China was around this side as well.
I wanna comment on this. I was on a business trip on north part of China. That's probably in 1991.
Right.
Okay, I went to Dongbei, northwest of China. Those people live there for their life. They never pretty much stay out their life. And I was telling them, one of the gentlemen working at a factory, and really been happy with what his life. But I would tell him the global map. I say the map you're looking at China in the center. That's our version.
Right.
But if you look at the other version, the other country in the center, he said that's impossible.
Exactly. The Middle Kingdom. How could that happen?
So I keep telling him that's a fact. That's it. He still resists to believe. They say impossible.
Yeah. And in this map, when I looked at the world, I mean, it had China in the middle. In fact, I collected that map. I went to.
So almost it was impossible to happen.
It was impossible for me to see it because, again, up until that point, at that point I'm 30-some years of age. I'd always seen America in the middle, and what it really reminded me is we need to take a broad view of the world. We need to understand that not everyone sees the world from our egocentric perspective, and that's one of the things that I find about going to China. It makes me think in ways that perhaps I haven't thought before.
That's the word egocentric. I don't think it's a bad thing or good thing. It's just a thing that's the nature of a human.
It's a natural phenomenon, I think, to kind of what is normal and what is comfortable to you, and so you can break out of that. In fact, one of the things that I saw at a Chinese school, and luckily it was written in both Chinese and English, because it said, take a broad view of the world. And I think that all of us need to take a broad view of the world, whether we're on one side of the Pacific or the other. We need to realize that we're all in this together. We bring different things to the table, but we can't just look at it as though what we believe is right is in fact the only answer.
Given what you said, I love philosophy. The more I learn, it seems like the more confused I am.
Exactly.
There's a Chinese idiom called 井中之蛙, the frog in the well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, his sky is that big and beautiful. His life is
Exactly.
happy. When he come out of that well, it's more confusing.
Exactly.
So I don't know, it's bad or good, because some people are just happy that way. Maybe they're happy.
Well, Jerry, but it's interesting how you speak of that. I mean, 30 plus years of traveling to China, and what used to be, kind of as you were pointing out, if you were born in a particular village, you probably lived your entire life there, and took care of your parents and your grandparents and the like. And it's interesting as I talk to some Chinese friends, they wonder, even growing up during the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward, they wonder if that wasn't a better time than today. As families are scattered around China and scattered around the world, where they come back for New Year's celebration or maybe National Day when the families can only get together. And it was really interesting to me.
It's a dilemma.
Well, and they talk about that time. They may be living on a glass of water and rice with a vegetable is their meal for the day. And now there's abundance within China, but they were questioning, what was better.
The sense of life.
Exactly. What is the importance, right?
And I in my generation, we came across all the changes throughout these years. I was one of the little kids living in a very poor place in China with my grandma. I remember the rooster always cock-a-doodle and woke me up. And those times, the memory-wise, so sweet.
Sure.
I wake up with the sunshine. I went to sleep when the sun's down. We have a little tiny, they call vegetable oil lights. That's all I had. Yeah. And I didn't have much thing to do. I remember those times the moonshine was one of the beautiful lights I ever remember. The star, everything. Yeah. Now, if you stay in Beijing, probably won't see those things no more.
It's too bright. Well, this most recent trip, and this is a friend of yours. In fact, you introduced me to him, Mr. Chen.
Yeah.
I met Mr. Chen and his family, and 95-year-old parents, and a 17-year-old great-granddaughter. And to me, the contrast was just phenomenal to watch this, because here's this 17-year-old girl with designer jeans with pre-rips in them that she probably spent a couple $100 US, and a family, the 95-year-old grandparents that may have had very little to eat and very little to wear during some of the rough times, and particularly during the century of humiliation and the like, where China was really struggling. But to see the growth and development over this period of time is nothing short of phenomenal. And again, sitting there with Mr. Chen and his parents, 95-year-old and 17-year-old great-granddaughter, you can see the contrast between what it was and what is.
So that made me think, the difference between China and America, the people difference, the culture difference. But since you've been seeing all the things throughout this year, the both sides, probably you have, a lot of either remnants or some ideas or some questions.
Well, the fact is, yeah, it's difficult. Sometimes with this, I know a lot more, perhaps, than most Western people about China, because it's just been a fascination. But when you take a look at the thousands of years history of the Chinese civilization, I know very little. And it's very difficult for anybody, I think, to be an expert on China. What I try to do, and I get pushed back all the time, is our Congress and our president ought to deal at the national level with some of those national issues, whether that's the South China Sea and making sure sea lanes are open, or currency manipulations, or human rights issues, which are very important to the culture, the values of our country, understanding that China sees that as interfering with their internal affairs, and there's a struggle there. But what I've tried to do is work at the sub-national level, at the governor's level, the mayors, the presidents of universities, community colleges, superintendents, and to build those people-to-people. When we can do that, so that we can build cultural exchanges, scientific exchanges, educational, and culture. And that's paid dividends to my home state of Michigan, where we've seen tremendous amount of Chinese investment that have created jobs and investment here in the state that have put people back to work. So as I like to say, there's a China wave that's coming. Do nothing and be swamped, or learn to surf and ride the wave. And I think our governor and some progressive leaders like Brooks Patterson, Mayor Wild from Westland, and others are surfing that wave, understanding there's difference between our two governments, but at people-to-people and a subnational level, finding ways to make those connections work.
Interestingly, you said a China wave. Actually, when I was a kid, or in my younger generation, 20 years ago, the Chinese opened the door to the Western wave. The wave was pretty strong coming to China.
Sure.
So people start from learn Beatles, and then learn Madonna, learn
all the great things of our culture,
Jackson, right? Learn Madonna, everything. So I think I won't call. If you call that, there's a thing because the invading of that things.
Right.
It's not really invading. I see they merge, the communication, they learn from each other. Same thing. When China getting a little bigger in terms of noise, the China is also trying to come to America with their culture, their value and investment. So I think how to treat each other the way that make everybody comfortable, that's a challenging question.
I think you're absolutely right on that. To think that things are just a one-way street. That's why I think the metaphor of a bridge is so important, because it's a two-way. A bridge goes this way and it goes that way as well. And building those importance and seeing it go back and forth. As an example, in 1989, I was coached, and then I would coach others, of how to present your business cards with two hands and to study it and the like. And it's interesting, because the Chinese learn from us, which in America, you kind of flick your business card across the table, or, not treating it with the same respect. And nowadays, I see Americans going to present their card like this, and the Chinese handing it with one hand.
I was doing this way.
Yeah, to do it that way. And more importantly, now it's no longer even a business card. It's, can I have your WeChat? and doing a WeChat exchange.
Scan my WeChat.
Exactly. You know, and you see people around a table at a banquet WeChatting each other back and forth. So technology and a two-way bridge we learn from each other.
Well, you just came back from China about a month ago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what's that trip's purpose?
Well, you know, in my previous job,
I saw a lot of pictures you posting, you're eating noodles.
I was enjoying the culture. But one of the things that I wanted to do is oftentimes in life, you either have time and no money, or money and no time.
Now you have time and money.
I got time and money. Well, not a whole lot of money, but I mean,
don't lie. Just tell the truth.
I got, you know, I'm not as wealthy as a lot of the people that live in Pudong in Shanghai, but. And I really wanted to do it, so I had about 3 or 4 business trips, and so our good friend Corallo Chen and I went to China. We had some business meetings in Beijing, Tianjin, and Shanghai, but I wanted to go to a part of China that I haven't been before, and that was down in the Yunnan province, and so I went to Dalian and Kunming and a number of other cities.
I took my kids to there
Shangri-La.
3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and it was really. In a lot of ways, it kind of took me back 30 years because it felt, you know, being out in the country was what I experienced when I first went to China in 1989. Mm-hmm. Life was a little simpler. People are more apt to sit back and to drink tea and to enjoy life and to take in the culture. So yeah, I did slurp a few noodles. I enjoyed some good tea, and I even figured some time out there to get a foot massage here.
Yeah,
here and there. It was good, enjoyable.
Well, life is good that way, huh?
It is, and you know, the other is to meet old friends and new. I mean, to be able to exchange. After I left Yunnan, I went up and went to Taizhou and met with Mr. Chen and spent some time there. And again, here in this part of the world, that very few people in Western society have ever heard of Taizhou. And there it is, we're looking at an electric car company that's producing buses and emergency vehicles and SUVs and cars. At a car company that we haven't heard of. And, you know, meeting also and doing some educational exchange with the universities and community colleges there. So, you know, it really was just kind of reconnecting me with China and the culture and to do a little bit of business as well.
Yeah, I go to China probably several times a year as well. And like I was in China in July. Mm-hmm. I went to Tibet, which you've been there before. That's part of different culture. And also, I went to big city in July. That's really hot. You know, the big city is really hot.
Very hot.
And I'm planning to go to China after Christmas.
And that'll be nice. That'll be a good time of the year.
I'm planning to see some of the potential delegations. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, I can bring more delegations to come to our state and do the business exchange, you know, culture exchange. As you said, those are going to exchange. The more we do, the more understanding between each other. Probably the more opportunities and prosperity, more jobs for our community. That's my goal.
Absolutely, I think that it is. As we begin to develop these relationships, I mean, can you imagine just picking up and you know, going to people? That happens with China. Chinese people have fled here. You know, fled. They've come to America for education and jobs and the like, and we're seeing that migration go the other way. Kind of what do they call it? The sea turtles returning back, or Chinese that have come here and are now going home with opportunities. There are a lot of our colleagues and friends that have made their livelihood in China, going back and forth and developing that. And so, yeah, I think the more we have personal relationships, because nobody wants to do business when they don't understand.
Don't trust you.
Well, I mean, why should they? They don't know.
I mean, to me, business is about trust first.
Yeah, it's relationships and the like. I mean, just to give an example, I've shared with you, I purchased property in Costa Rica and Central. And why did I do that? I didn't just go on the internet and decide, geez, let me go buy some property in a culture, even beautiful as it is. I happen to have a good friend that lived there who married a Costa Rican woman. Mm-hmm. So I knew him, I knew her, I knew her family, which gave me a level of comfort to do that kind of investment. And that's no different, I think, with doing business. One project that I'm working on right now is to take a Chinese school and to bring an American school and bring it in on top of the Chinese school. Mm-hmm. And this enables the Chinese students to graduate from high school and have a Chinese diploma and have a U.S. diploma,
That's nice.
which gives the Chinese students a greater opportunity, perhaps, to come here and study at one of our fine universities. Maybe they'll go to Michigan State, or if they can't get into Michigan State, maybe they'd go to U of M.
Given what you said, actually, one of the potential opportunity I want to visit during my come up trip is education related. So I'd like to share this information with them as well. But it seems you mentioned a lot of things that Chinese people that come here to invest to make a living and then to assimilate it to like me.
Right.
I'm a Chinese American as well here.
You probably have spent more of your life in America than you have in China.
That's true. But however, there's a lot of kids from state of Michigan, from Frankenmuth, from Detroit that make a living in China.
Absolutely, and you can do that. In fact, I find a bit of a jealousy when I see people like our friend Dan Redford, young Dan, he's probably not even 30 yet, because he got excited about the language, took it, studied it, went to China, was there during the Olympics, which was, like excitement on steroids during that time, and has made his living. His professional life has been in China, and, that wasn't an opportunity that was open to me in the early 70s when I was graduating from college, the mid-70s. It was, maybe diplomats, scholars, and the like that had opportunities.
And also
some business.
Detroit kids.
Yeah.
Keith Bartlett. I mean, he's making quite a life here, and he show off all this friend circle and a lot of celebrities that I never get a chance to meet.
That you can meet them in China, right? You go around the world.
Yeah. So the life's changed a lot, and people getting closer and closer in the global wise. Yeah. And the relationship and friendship that make us. I mean, I believe one day we're going to become one village.
I think that you're right about that. I mean, with travel now, I mean, I just remember even the time that I've gone, you used to have to fly to Narita, Japan, stay over or lay over in Japan for 2 or 3 hours and then fly into Beijing or Shanghai. Today, at a Detroit Metro, there's direct flights with multiple airlines, certainly Delta, that take you into Beijing, takes you into Shanghai, into Hong Kong, where you can have direct flights. And there's China Air and Hunan Air and the like that are making those Pacific flights.
I always tell some of my friends, hey, even you come to America, we'll go to Beijing. Oftentimes shorter than travel inside China.
Yeah, and cheaper sometimes. There's times I've got a cheaper flight to China than I have from Detroit to North Carolina to visit my dad, and so you can get some pretty good flights if you're not going during the peak season.
If you look at the history, when you leave the village, it seems like you're gone forever. People gonna miss you forever.
Sure.
And 20 years ago, when I was coming to America, my parents say, "We won't see you at least for
years.
5-6 years."
Yeah.
Now, hey, why don't you come back in the weekend?
Exactly. The only thing that gets you is you feel like a little bit of a yo-yo when you go to China too often. That jet lag and the 12-hour difference can wear you out after a while. But the quickest trip that I've done, I think, was 3 or 4 days, where I went literally for a meeting, did the meeting, I think, overnight one day, and then flew back. I felt like I was turning myself inside out because I didn't know what time zone I was on.
You're probably just confused, huh?
No, more confused than usual. Great to see the audience that are here today. I mean, people that want to learn about building bridges.
Well, thank you so much for sharing great insight with us.
Good to be with you,
Jerry.
Jerry.
Looking forward to have you come back.
Thank you.
Again, thanks you for coming to Jerry's Club. I'm looking forward to have more friends like Tom and others to our show in the future. Stay with us. Thank you.